Well, a subject that I suspect is going to be familiar to most people and certainly very dear to a Sydney-sider's heart, and that's the Sydney Opera House. But the problem with drawing it as a local is that I'm all too aware of exactly how it should look, the way these curves should look. And so it's very clear to me with that first take on the larger shell that I haven't allowed the curve to be full enough. So I know this is just going to be a draft, this one. So I keep working through it until I get a sense of where perhaps I'm going to come adrift from being accurate. And I think, okay, so now on the second take, I have a better idea of how to go forward, which is generally true. So I start with these bottom triangles that become the pivot points for the two larger shells on each side. And again, I'm trying to get a sense of where things are relative to each other, which is harder, where, yep, and there's another shocker of a line, shocker of a shell. I had made it too narrow. It's not full enough in its curvature. It hasn't tipped forward enough in the tip where the tip is situated. And so I need to start again, because there is no point drawing the opera house if I can't get the shells accurate. Simple diagrams are often the most difficult because we really have to get the lines correct. There's nowhere to go. And well, third time lucky, actually, fourth time lucky, because I did do a quick preparatory sketch as well that I never intended to record. So with these shells, what I'm doing is I'm particularly paying attention to the shapes between them, those more triangular shapes. Although they are in fact curved, they are still part of the shell complex. And I'm positioning those to help, if you like, get the pivot point of the larger shells in the correct place. It's all about looking at angles and where things line up and align with other things. And then trying to get the curve as full or as tight as it needs to be, where it's a pointy corner, say on the extreme right, to get it looking pointy, on the extreme left, where it's a blunter corner, to get that blunter effect. I often see drawings of the opera house and every shell looks fairly random as far as I can see. And certainly there's no regard for the nuanced differences of angle in the shells. And of course, these shells sit on a large base, a large platform that has some theatre complexes within it, below the level of the opera theatre and the concert theatre that sit on top of the platform. And then we have the harbour circular quay coming alongside. So now I've got the one spot where the shells overlap each other. So I left a gap to be able to position these two small shells in the front. These are a restaurant. Not one that I've ever had enough money to eat in, but still a beautiful spot to sit and look and have a drink, looking straight across to the Sydney Harbour Bridge on the other side of Circular Quay. And then it's a case now of just getting the details under the stairway. In fact, that on the right-hand side, you can see that the platform slopes down at a shallow angle. That's the main staircase. It's an enormous staircase, and usually people access from underneath and have a shorter trip up the escalators or using lifts. So I'm just finishing now the details of the platform. These big shadowed window areas are very characteristic of it, and I think really help visually to give a sense of interest to what could have been a pretty bland spot. Just getting the last details of this done. This photo, of course, will be on my channel community page, so have a go at drawing the Sydney Opera House. You don't have to travel to Sydney to do it. But the important thing is to get those shells correct. And it's worth doing 2 or 3. goes if we can become more accurate with each one, because it really is a very good exercise in observation, because we don't really have a strong preconception of what they should look like. So we have to observe them carefully to have any sense of getting them correct. Just putting all those little black windows in now. And it's a beautiful spot on a sunny day, and quite a bleak spot on an overcast, rainy, windy day, because it is very exposed sitting out on the harbour as it is. But it's a great place to see a performance of any sort. So finishing this last section where we have space under the main stairway, entrance stairway, which really is the more common entry point, and where also cars can pull in and let people out undercover if need be. And just take away the tape to get a little hint of headland there on the other side of the harbour, and then do something comparable on the other side where we're seeing the other arm of the next cove around from Circular Quay. I hope you have a go. And I just thought I'd try and fix that a little bit. And of course, I don't know whether I made it look a bit blotchier, but them's the chances we take when we go back to something afterwards. Why not have a go? Well, this is a bowl with challenges in it, because it does have these wonderful, deep, curved flutes around the side of it, scalloped shaping. And so in a freehand pen drawing, the challenge is to locate all of these rounded sections in the right proportion to each other, in the right placement, the right alignment with each other. Now, what I'm doing, and you'll see me with the pen pointing it out, is I'm trying to align the, if you like, the opposite points where it comes in, because each of these rounded scallop sections has an opposite one. And so I'm looking at the 2 points where each curve comes into the bowl, and then I'm looking at where the corresponding 2 points where the curves come into the bowl on the opposite side of the bowl. And I'm trying to get the angle, if you like, the perspective angle correct, as well as looking to see how far that curve comes out in relation to the curve above or below it that I've already drawn. And so I end up, as you can see here, with then the final curve section to do. And I've probably flattened my bowl a little bit, as if I've just dropped slightly lower in observing it than in the photo. So now I'm drawing the base of the bowl. Now, it's a tricky bowl because a lot of the effect comes from the glazing. And if we look at the glazing inside, it's a bit counterintuitive. It's not lining up the way I think we expect it to line up with where these sections that come into the bowl are. So the pattern actually slopes down, not on the lines, but in the scallop shape, in the rounded shape. At this stage, I wasn't sure whether I was going to do any line work at all, any hatching for shade or to indicate the glaze. But when I finished it, I thought, well, it does look a bit bare right now, so I might as well have a go at doing something, because really the only way we discover what effects are good to try and put into a drawing is by experimenting how they turn out. And so I'm thinking at this point, look, I'll just try and indicate the actual glaze colours, or at least the pattern that the colours form, rather than get too caught up in hatching. I'll just try and represent this rather striking geometric patterning that we see. And this is where it became important for me to work out exactly how these streaks that angle into a V shape align with the corners of the scallops where they come into the bowl. And as you can see, it's not where I thought they were going to be, and it's not where just looking at it at a glance it looks like it is. So I went pretty slowly at this point, just trying to get these glazes dripping according to the right curve. So then I'd done that, and I thought, oh look, I might as well just do a few hatching lines on as well, because it really hadn't taken much time to get to this point. I hope you have a go drawing this yourself. This bowl is on the channel community page, the photo reference. So even just as an exercise with the scalloped rim and just getting the perspective of that looking consistent, I think is a really valuable exercise to do. It's another great exercise in observation when it's going to be difficult for us to really have some sort of intuitive expectation of how it's going to look. And so that will force us to actually look to see how it lines up. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, it looks simple, but there are quite a few challenges in this bowl, but still, why not give it a go? But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.